One person speaks for 10 minutes, explains every little detail, answers every question, and yet the room forgets almost everything they said. Then another person speaks for barely 30 seconds. The room goes silent. People nod. Someone starts taking notes also, and suddenly the entire discussion changes direction. It has nothing to do with having the loudest voice. And surprisingly, it doesn't even have much to do with confidence. It's about how they think before they speak. Take a look at some of the world's most respected CEOs. When Satya Nadella speaks, he rarely uses dramatic language. Tim Cook doesn't dominate every conversation. Indra Nooyi wasn't known for speaking the longest in meetings. Yet when they speak, people listen. Not because they're CEOs, they became CEOs because people listen. In this video, we're going to break down the communication habits that separate ordinary professionals from exceptional leaders. Here's a sentence I want you to remember for the next 10 minutes. It's never about what you know, it's about how it lands. First, lead with the headline. Bury your point, and you bury your credibility with it. Journalists have a rule. Put the most important information in the first sentence. It's called burying the lead when you don't, and it's the single most common mistake in meetings. Most people explain their way toward a point. Powerful communicators state the point first, then earn the right to explain it. For example, Apollo 13, 1970. When the spacecraft suffered a catastrophic failure, mission control didn't open with a backstory. Flight controllers and astronauts reported the core fact immediately, then filled in details as engineers worked the problem. In a crisis, clarity comes first, context comes second, and that principle didn't stay in aerospace. It became the model that emergency rooms, airline cockpits, and modern crisis communications teams still train on today. Whether the news is good or bad, say the headline first. We're behind schedule beats a 3-minute lead up to the same sentence. How to practice it. Before you speak in a meeting, silently finish this sentence in your head. The bottom line is underscore. Say that sentence out loud first. Every other sentence you had planned becomes optional supporting evidence, not the main event. Second, cut the hedges. Hedging is the silent killer of authority. These are words like, I think maybe, sort of, this could be wrong, but does that make sense? Every one of these phrases is a small apology for having an opinion. And when you apologize for your own thoughts, people stop trusting them. For example, journalists and design historians who've studied Apple's keynote era under Steve Jobs consistently point to one pattern. The language was declarative. Not, this might be a good phone. Simply, this is the best phone we've made. That single framing choice became the industry template. Picture two managers pitching the same budget cut to leadership. Manager A says, I was thinking maybe we could possibly look at trimming the marketing budget a little, if that's okay. Manager B says, we should cut marketing spend by 15% this quarter. Here's what we save and here's what we protect. Manager B gets the budget approved. Manager A gets asked to circle back next week. Same idea, different outcome because of hedging. How to practice it. Record yourself in your next 3 meetings. Count your hedge words. Then in meeting 4, allow yourself only one hedge phrase max for the entire meeting. You'll be shocked how much clearer you sound. Third, keep your sentences short and clear. CEOs don't use long, complicated explanations to impress people. They use short, clear, declarative sentences that solve the problem in front of them. Think of communication like a flashlight, not fireworks. Fireworks are loud and impressive, but they disappear in seconds. A flashlight quietly helps everyone see the path forward. That's what great leaders do. For example, watch footage of any confident courtroom lawyer or a skilled TED speaker and count how many of their sentences are under 10 words. It's a lot more than you'd expect. Short sentences aren't a lack of sophistication, they're a sign of sophistication. It takes real clarity of thought to compress a complex idea into a short sentence. And short sentences survive in people's memory far longer than long ones. How to practice it. Before speaking, ask yourself, will this make the conversation clearer? If not, don't say it. Express one idea per sentence, remove unnecessary words, and pause after your key point instead of filling the silence. Remember, people rarely remember the longest answer. They remember the one that made everything suddenly make sense. Fourth, own the decision. Diffused responsibility gets diffused respect. Weak communicators spread responsibility so thin that nobody, including them, actually owns the outcome. Diffused responsibility sounds like, the team feels like maybe we should. Owned responsibility sounds like, I've decided we're moving forward with this. Even in a group decision, framing it as your stance signals leadership. It doesn't mean you're taking credit for everyone else's work. It means you're taking responsibility for the direction. For example, think about how airline pilots communicate during turbulence. They don't say, so it looks like maybe there's some weather up ahead and we might have to do something about it. They say, we're expecting some turbulence. Please return to your seats and fasten your seatbelt. Clear ownership, clear instruction. No panic because there's no ambiguity. That's the energy you want to bring into a business meeting. Not aggressive, just certain. How to practice it. Before your next meeting, identify one decision you'll need to speak on. Write down the sentence, I've decided, or my recommendation is, and say it out loud once before you walk in. It rewires how you carry yourself before you've said a single word to anyone else. As we're talking about leadership, communication, decision-making, and business growth, there's something interesting I came across the Leaders Toolkit. Sometimes the real challenge is inspiring your team, handling tough conversations, making decisions that actually stick, staying focused under pressure. And it didn't stop at the ebook. You also get a checklist to keep you focused, a resource cheat sheet for quick solutions, and a mind map that simplifies everything into one glance. Simple, practical, and powerful. I've added the link in the description below so you can easily explore it after this video. Fifth, ask sharper questions that lead the conversation. Great leaders aren't remembered for having all the answers. They're remembered for asking the questions that uncover the right ones. A vague question invites vague thinking, while a sharp, specific question changes the direction of the conversation. Think of your questions as a scalpel, not a fishing net. A fishing net catches everything, including noise. A scalpel cuts straight to what matters. Instead of asking, what does everyone think? Ask, what's the biggest risk if we miss this deadline? Specific questions reveal facts, expose problems, and help teams make better decisions faster. For example, in hiring interviews, weak interviewers ask, tell me about yourself. Strong interviewers ask, walk me through a time you had to make a decision with incomplete information. What did you do? The second question gets real signal. The first gets a rehearsed script. The lesson, specificity is a form of authority. The more precise your question, the more it sounds like you already understand the situation. You're just confirming details. How to practice it. Before every meeting, prepare one question with a deadline, number, or consequence built into it. Then resist the urge to speak first. Listen carefully and ask the question no one else thought to ask. Because the person who asks the clearest question often becomes the person who leads the conversation. Sixth, slow down, especially under pressure. When pressure rises, most people speed up. It's a survival instinct. Get the words out, get it over with. But speed reads as anxiety, and anxiety is contagious in a room. If you're rushing, the room subconsciously feels like something is wrong. But leaders do the opposite. They slow down, pause, and think before they speak. Think of your words like arrows. If you fire them too quickly, you miss the target. But when you pause, aim, and then release, every word lands with purpose. A calm pace signals confidence, while rushing signals uncertainty. Even silence has power. It gives you time to think and encourages others to reveal more. That's why experienced leaders and negotiators never fear a pause. For example, think about how airline crisis communications or company statements during a product recall are delivered publicly. The strongest ones are slow, measured, and calm, even when the content is serious. That pace is a choice. It's training, and it's one of the fastest ways to instantly sound more senior than you are. How to practice it. In your next meeting, resist the urge to answer immediately. Pause for 2 seconds before responding to difficult questions, and leave a 1-second pause between key sentences. It may feel slow to you, but to everyone else it communicates confidence, control, and thoughtful leadership. Seventh, use numbers to drive decisions. Great leaders don't communicate with vague opinions. They communicate with facts, numbers, and clear actions. Think of a meeting like a GPS. It's not enough to know you're moving. Everyone needs to know where they're going, how they'll get there, and when they'll arrive. Instead of saying, "This is a high priority," say, "If we miss the August deadline, we'll lose our top 3 clients." Numbers create credibility, and clear next steps create accountability. That's how discussions become decisions. That's not just more persuasive, it's more respectful of the listener's time, because you're giving them the actual information they need to make a decision instead of just your emotional read on it. For example, Andy Grove, the legendary CEO of Intel, believed a meeting wasn't successful unless everyone left knowing who would do what and by when. Discussions alone didn't matter. Results did. His meetings ended with clear responsibilities and deadlines, turning ideas into execution. How to practice it. Before your next meeting, replace vague words like important, huge, or urgent with a number, date, or measurable consequence. Then end the meeting with a summary. What was decided? Who owns each task? What's the deadline? People remember the ending of a conversation most, so finish with clarity. None of these require a personality transplant. They're habits, and like any habit, they get easier with repetition. Here's how you actually make this stick, because knowing it and doing it are 2 different things. Don't try to install all 7 at once. That's how people give up in a week. Pick one shift. Practice it deliberately in every meeting for 1 full week. Once it's automatic and you'll feel when it becomes automatic, add the next one. If you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments. Which of these 7 do you struggle with the most? Remember, a calm voice is a life raft. Grab it first, and the room will grab it from you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.